Image anomalies, Curiosity rover on Earth. For decades, NASA has posted the images captured by its Mars rovers on the internet for anyone to view. This researcher did just that. The following presentation is the culmination of a 6-year study of over 1 million of those images, some of which contain inexplicable anomalies. The intriguing findings presented in this video will force the viewer to decide if these oddities are in fact just photographic anomalies, or are the images not genuine? Suspend whatever preconceived judgments or opinions you have regarding this idea until you watch the whole video. Perhaps by the end you too will be wondering about the authenticity of the Curiosity rover images on Mars. All images in this presentation are exclusively from NASA and JPL sources. For decades, JPL has developed and managed NASA's Mars rover program. JPL also manages the PDS Image Archive Atlas, a repository of NASA's images from all past and present missions. Often a single image will be repeated and posted in various color filters, such as this one. Except for the color variations, the images should be identical. The upper right image is not. The image on the right shows the addition of a black area used on the reflective bracket. That would have been edited and drawn in by someone. But who did it and why? The previous image was not the only example of after-image editing added to NASA imagery. Here we see numerous times where white scratches obscure the images. Why would anyone want or need to edit an image of Mars? The Curiosity rover has 6 wheels, such as this one. The black wheels are designed with distinctive chevron-shaped grousers. In the middle image, we see Curiosity's right middle wheel. When we compare it to another similar image on the far right, from Sol 535, we see 2 rows of grousers that look noticeably different. In this comparison, the image on the right shows a wheel at a slight angle, and the grousers, that only extend 1/4 inch, are remarkably shorter than the ones in the 2 rows on the left. The grousers in the left image protrude significantly more and seem disproportionate to the other grousers on the wheel. Here we observe another wheel anomaly. In the comparison of the 2 images, on the right, the same wheel cutout of the dirt inside remarkably forms a perfect number 7. Curiously, that same exact cutout 26 minutes earlier, as confirmed by the timestamp shown, was completely open. This image, taken by the front hazard camera, shows 2 inexplicable white objects just behind the front left wheel. The 2 small round white objects appear to have raised centers. These odd objects appear inorganic and out of place. This color image of the front of Curiosity includes the gray organic check material display. What is significant in the next series of images is how it is attached to the front deck, as highlighted by the red arrow. Inexplicably, it changes depending on which of Curiosity's cameras are used. The image on the right is a close-up of the image we just reviewed. The perspective is from the front of the deck. The two long red arrows, as we're showing here, show how the display is attached to the deck with a V-shaped bracket. The V-shaped bracket attaches here on the side of the A cylinder and comes backward at an angle. When we come over to the image in the black and white, the perspective changes because we are now viewing from behind on the navigation camera on the mast. Here we observe the display is no longer attached with a V-shaped bracket, but in fact a straight single peg that runs perfectly parallel to the A bracket. How is it that it is running parallel in this image, and yet here it is actually coming off at an angle from the A cylinder? In this image taken from Curiosity's navigation camera on the mast, it's angled down to observe the robotic arm. Highlighted in the circle and enlarged on the right is a curious conical-shaped object with a flat, round, reflective base. This is not a part of the rover. Where did it come from? These two similar images, taken from different soles, capture the same support bracket. Oddly, the image on the right shows a mottled gray object that appears in front of the equipment and is framed with a brown material that looks like brown masking tape. It does not appear in the image on the left. Here we get an even closer view of the same images and can observe a significant difference between the two. In the image on the right, we have an unobscured view of this bracket and can see the full width of it. When we come over to the left side, we can see that the gray mottled object is still obscuring the view because we can no longer see the full width of that bracket. Now, this is not a shadow. As we can see over here, shadows are opaque and we can still see the equipment through it. We cannot see the other side of that bracket. This image was captured by Curiosity's rear hazard camera, and there is a wire protruding from the rock. Curiosity's DRT, or dirt removal tool, is frequently photographed as we see in the color image in the upper right. The image was converted to black and white to use as an example of how it should appear, so we can compare it to the enlargement taken from Sol 942. The left brush, as we see here, is secured by a bracket, and then this bracket goes across and we have a silver stabilizer bar, as we see up here in the example. And then on this side is the actual second brush. But when we come over here, we see the first brush and the stabilizer bar. But when we come over here and we should see the other brush, we do not. We see a very odd object. And then what is this? Curiosity can rotate and manipulate the turret into multiple positions to allow easy access to the surface for various parts of the equipment. However, this image is quite striking in that a part has been changed. To assist the viewer in seeing the contrast in the equipment, we are comparing a color image taken by the MOLLE camera on the left, showing the correct way the equipment should appear. It is a long rectangular cover with an angled beveled edge. But when we look over here, here is the long rectangular object, but we actually see that it has been separated and angled apart, and we see it is separated. And this should be one complete object. It does not have separate parts. In this image from Sol 2408, the impression left in the Martian regolith by Curiosity's front right wheel requires more investigation. Even with this black and white image, two different color soils or dirt are observed. In addition, an even darker substance is seen in between each of the sections. How could it be that three different shades of dirt be grouped so perfectly? In this view, looking down toward the front of the equipment deck, there is an open area between the wheel and before the equipment and allows a clear view of the Martian surface, as we can see here. In the image below and enlarged on the right, we cannot see the Martian surface as it is obscured with what appears as straps. These do not belong here and are not part of Curiosity. Here, the robotic arm is at rest on Curiosity's equipment deck. Upon further investigation, the equipment on the right shows an unusual anomaly with a bracket. Let's take a closer look. This close-up taken by the mast cam shows a clear view of the section to be studied. This bracket right here has a straight edge. This image is the one that we just studied. The black and white image shows a different story. The bracket, when it comes to this point, has an odd object hanging down from it. We put it into a different filter to show a different perspective, and we can even see that this potentially was done in after image editing or could have been done with an object added in situ. Was this alteration an after image edit? And if it was, why was it added? Curiosity's wrist joint is the focus of this study. The bracket contains 3 pre-drilled holes. In the color image on the left, the perspective is from above from the mast camera, which allows us to peer down inside the far left hole and see what appears to be a reflective screw. The black and white image on the right shows the same 3 holes, but the perspective changes to a more horizontal position as it was taken by the front hazard cameras, which are lower down. Here, the reflective object appears as a silver ball resting on the bracket. Perhaps the screw in the intervening years between these images being captured has come loose and raised higher. That theory would work, except these 2 images were taken on the same day with the same camera. This image found in the PDS image archives is of Curiosity's right middle wheel. The arrow highlights a silver teardrop-shaped object that is resting on the wheel. Where did it come from, and how did it get there? NASA's PDS image archives were set up to allow researchers and scientists around the world to access the images. Interestingly, thousands of images in the archives rest behind this "Browse Not Available" sign. Why would there be so many images that NASA deems not approved for public viewing? This presentation has shown specific examples depicting inexplicable anomalies in images taken directly from NASA sources. At the minimum, this presentation has proven that there is after image editing of Curiosity imagery. In addition, numerous examples were shown where objects were added to the images. That could only occur if the images were taken here on Earth. You decide.